I found out my wife was cheating when our daughter called a stranger daddy. Throwaway account because I never want this traced back to my real life. I, 34M, have been married to my wife. Marissa, 33F, for 7 years. We've been together for a total of 10. We have one daughter together, Emily, who just turned 4 a few months ago. If you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have said my marriage was solid. Not perfect, of course, but built on trust. At least that's what I believed. I'm not dramatic, I don't like conflict. I've always been the steady one in the relationship, the provider. I work in IT for a regional health system. Long hours, but good pay. Benefits. I come home, I play with my daughter, I help clean up, and I try to be a present husband. I thought that was enough. Marissa works from home as a graphic designer. She's talented, creative, a little aloof, but that's always been part of her charm. She has a lot of friends, most of them other creatives, and I never minded when she went to art events or work meetups. I trusted her. That trust shattered like glass 4 months ago. It started small. Emily started acting weird. Not bad, just different. She would say odd things like, "Mommy says I'm her special secret," or "I can't tell Daddy about our friend." At first I brushed it off. Kids say weird stuff, right? They make things up. But it kept happening. One night while I was putting her to bed, she said something that made my blood freeze. "Are you coming to the park with Mommy and Daddy tomorrow?" I laughed. "Sweetheart, I am your daddy." She looked confused. "No. My other daddy, Mommy's friend Daddy." I asked her what she meant, trying not to panic. She told me so innocently that Mommy's friend takes them to the park sometimes when I'm at work forever. She said he buys her ice cream and picks her up and calls Marissa babe. I didn't sleep that night. I waited until Marissa was asleep and checked her phone. She had changed the passcode. That had never happened before, so I went into detective mode. Over the next week, I did everything I thought I'd never do. I followed her when she left for a work lunch. She didn't go to the cafe she said she was going to. She went to a small house on the east side of town. I parked down the street and watched as a man opened the door. Tall, muscular, mid-30s, looked like a fitness coach. They hugged. He kissed her cheek. Then they went inside and didn't come back out for 2 hours. When she came home, she acted like everything was normal, made spaghetti, asked how my day was, kissed me goodnight. I felt like I was living in a parallel universe. Hired a private investigator the next morning. What he found gutted me. Marissa had been seeing this guy, his name's Ryan, for at least 1.5 years. They met at her gym. He's a personal trainer and part-time model. They started having an affair, and she eventually started taking Emily along, pretending he was Mommy's work friend when she couldn't get a babysitter. There were pictures, videos, even a couple of text messages that made me want to throw up. One in particular haunts me. She told him, "Sometimes I wish I could just reset and start my family with you instead. You feel like what I was meant to have." The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was parental. She let our daughter form a bond with this man, let her believe he was another father figure, lied to her, confused her. I confronted her. I wish I could say I stayed calm. I didn't. I waited until Emily was asleep, and then I put all the evidence on the table and asked her to explain. At first she tried to lie, said he was just a friend. I showed her the photos, the texts, the video of them holding hands. While pushing our daughter on a swing, her face went pale. Then she cried. Not for what she did, but because she got caught. She said she didn't mean for it to happen. That it started when I was emotionally unavailable during the pandemic, when I was working overtime to keep us afloat. She said Ryan listened to her, saw her, treated her like she mattered. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. I asked if she wanted to leave me. She said she didn't know. That was the last straw. I told her to leave the house. She begged to stay, for Emily's sake. I told her she should have thought of Emily before bringing a stranger into her life and calling him Daddy. She started screaming that I was trying to destroy her life. I told her she already had. She moved in with her sister the next day. We've been separated for 3 months now. I've filed for divorce. I'm going for primary custody, and my lawyer is confident I'll get it. The court doesn't look kindly on parents who expose their toddlers to adulterous partners and confuse their identity like that. Marissa has tried everything to make me change my mind. Letters, calls, showing up at my job, apologizing, crying, telling me she was depressed and lost, and that Ryan meant nothing. I don't buy it, especially not after I found out she's still seeing him. They were spotted by one of my friends at a new gym across town. So much for meant nothing. I've been doing my best to rebuild. Emily is adjusting. I've got her in play therapy to help her process the confusion. She still occasionally mentions Mommy's friend, but less and less. I've told her in age-appropriate terms that some people don't always tell the truth, and that Daddy will always be here, no matter what. As for me, I'm surviving. Some days are better than others. The loneliness hits hard, especially at night. But I know I made the right choice. I couldn't stay with someone who lied to me and to our daughter for over a year. Sometimes I sit in the living room after she's asleep, in the quiet, and I still ask myself, how did I not see it? But the truth is, you don't see what you're not looking for. I trusted her, I believed in her, I loved her. She threw all of that away. I'll never be the same. But I'll be better. For Emily, for me, for the life I still deserve. My husband secretly bought a second house, and I found out it was for the woman he actually loves. Throwaway account because I don't ever want this tied to my real name. I, 31F, have been married to my husband Jake, 35Me, for 6 years. Together for 10. I met him when I was in college and he was already working as a mechanical engineer. He was charming, attentive, ambitious, and had this way of making you feel like the most important person in the room. I'd never met anyone like him. He pulled me into his world fast. We moved in together 6 months after we started dating. He proposed after a year. Looking back, it was all too fast, but at the time I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Our marriage was for the most part functional, not romantic, not passionate, but stable, reliable. Jake was never the grand gestures kind of man. He showed love in practical ways, fixing things, making sure bills were paid on time, occasionally bringing home dinner when I was too tired to cook. I told myself that's just how adult love looked, that the butterflies fade, and what's left is partnership. We bought a house 3 years ago in a quiet neighborhood. I work in digital marketing and had just gotten a promotion that allowed us to stretch for a nicer place. He was making good money too. We didn't have kids. He said he wasn't ready, and I told myself I could wait. But then things started to shift about a year ago. He got distant. At first it was subtle, longer hours at work, more guy nights that didn't include me. Phone, face down more often. Password changes I wasn't told about. He told me I was being paranoid, that he was just stressed from work. But the intimacy dried up. He stopped asking about my day. Conversations got shorter. He looked at me like I was a roommate he barely recognized. I started wondering if he was depressed. I brought it up. He denied anything was wrong. I tried to be supportive, to give him space but also stay present. He started sleeping in the guest room because of my snoring. I've never snored. Then one afternoon I got a call from the bank. A woman named Lindsay, very polite, said there was a discrepancy with one of Jake's mortgage auto payments. I told her there must be a mistake. We only had one mortgage. She apologized and asked if she could confirm the property address. It wasn't ours. It wasn't even in our city. It was a house in a suburb 2 hours away. I played dumb. Asked for more information. She said she wasn't allowed to give details to anyone not listed on the account. I thanked her and hung up. My heart was hammering so hard I felt dizzy. At first, I thought maybe it was an investment. He'd mentioned wanting to flip houses someday, but he never told me, so I started digging. I pulled a credit report under his name, found it, a mortgage initiated 11 months ago, a sizable down payment. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove to the address. It was a beautiful 2-story colonial, white shutters, big porch swing, toys in the yard. My stomach dropped. There were toys. I parked across the street and just sat there, watching. After 20 minutes, he pulled into the driveway. Jake. He got out of the car and walked up the steps. The door opened before he reached it. A woman stepped out, early 30s, tall, beautiful, holding a toddler on her hip. She smiled at him like she'd been waiting all day. He kissed her, kissed the toddler. They all went inside. I don't remember. Driving home. I was on autopilot. I sat in my car for an hour outside my own house, staring at the front door like it was a portal to another version of my life. I didn't confront him that night. I needed more information, needed to be sure of what I saw. Over the next week, I became someone else. Obsessed. I drove there 3 more times. Every time he was there, sometimes on weekends, sometimes weeknights when he told me he was working late. Each time the same woman, the same child. Sometimes another kid, a little girl, older, maybe 5 or 6. He had a family, another life. I hired a private investigator. What he gave me confirmed everything. Her name was Melissa. She'd been seeing Jake for almost 5 years. They met through a conference, stayed in touch, started a long-distance relationship. She thought he was divorced. He told her he and I had separated amicably but stayed married for tax reasons. She believed him. Everyone did. He even had mail forwarded to a P.O. box, so nothing from her address came to our house. The boy? His son? The girl? Her daughter from a previous relationship who called him Daddy. He'd been living a double life, 2 families, 2 realities. When I finally confronted him, he didn't deny it. He just sat down on the couch, sighed and said, "I was going to tell you eventually." Like it was a parking ticket. I screamed, threw things, demanded answers. How long? Why? His answers made me feel insane. He said he loved me and her. He said with me he had stability, normalcy, a house that was clean, bills that were paid, a woman who didn't expect fireworks. But with her he had passion, kids, a real family. He said she made him feel alive. I asked if he was leaving me for her. He hesitated, said he wasn't sure, that he'd built something real with both of us. I laughed. I think I actually laughed out loud. I couldn't believe it. He genuinely thought he could keep both lives. When I told him I was filing for divorce and exposing everything to both families, he begged me not to. Not because he was sorry, but because he didn't want to hurt the kids. I said, "You mean the kid I didn't even know existed until a week ago?" He said, "Don't punish them for my mistakes." I told him the only person I was going to punish was him, and I meant it. I met with a lawyer the next day, started gathering every document, text, email I could, the investigator's report, mortgage papers, credit records, all of it. Then I did. The one thing I knew would hurt most. I called her. I found her number in his phone. I expected screaming, denial, maybe even rage, but instead, I got silence. When I told her who I was, she said, "You're lying." So I offered to meet in person. Brought the files, the dates, the receipts. Her hands shook the whole time. She looked up at me halfway through and said, "I thought I was the other woman. Turns out I was just one of 2. We cried together. She kicked him out, filed for custody, filed for fraud, because he'd put some of the utilities in her name without her knowledge. Jake lost everything. Both houses. His job, once HR got wind of the affair and double household mess. His reputation. Our mutual friends dropped him like a hot brick. Even his parents were disgusted. His mom called me and cried, apologizing for raising a monster in a suit. The divorce went through last month. I got the house, half the joint savings, and the car in my name. Melissa testified on my behalf. We still talk sometimes, not because we're friends, but because we're both trying to process the psychological whiplash of being lied to for years. He sends pathetic emails now, says he's in therapy, says he was sick and lost, that he wants to make things right, but I don't respond. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm free. My wife faked a miscarriage to cover up that the baby wasn't mine. Now she's begging me not to expose her to our families. I, 36 Sam, don't even know who I'm married to anymore. I've rewritten this post a dozen times, trying to make it make sense. But every time I start, I end up sitting here staring at the wall, wondering how long I've been living a lie. We've been married for 8 years, together for 11. We met in a bookstore, yes, seriously. She dropped a stack of books, I helped her pick them up, and we ended up talking for an hour in the aisle. Her name is Claire, 34F, and for years I thought she was the kindest, smartest, most sincere woman I'd ever met. We got married after dating for 3 years. The wedding was small, beautiful, intimate. My dad cried during his speech. Her mum gave me a hug and said, "Thank you for choosing her." I felt like the luckiest man alive. Claire has always been a bit reserved. She keeps her emotions close to the chest, even with me. But we had our rhythm. She was supportive, thoughtful, funny when she let her guard down. We traveled together, built careers, bought a house with a white fence and a tire swing out front. I was ready to grow old with her, but there was always one thing missing: children. For 5 years we tried to conceive. At first it was casual, then scheduled, then medical. We did the tests, the charts, the supplements. At one point, I was eating Brazil nuts like they were candy, because some fertility forum said they helped sperm motility. Nothing. Doctors said everything seemed technically fine, just unexplained infertility. We considered IVF, but Claire wasn't ready. Said she needed more time. I respected that. I figured when the time was right, we'd try harder. Then one night, about 10 months ago, she came home shaking, crying, holding a positive pregnancy test. She could barely speak. I thought she was having a panic attack, but when she finally got the words out, "I'm pregnant," I felt like time froze. I was ecstatic, over the moon. I scooped her up in my arms, laughed like an idiot, cried a little. We danced in the kitchen. I told everyone. My parents cried, her parents cried. We bought little booties. We started a nursery. And then 2 months later, she miscarried. She told me it happened at work, that she went to the bathroom and there was blood, that she rushed to the ER alone because she didn't want to scare me. The doctor, she said, confirmed. It early miscarriage. Nothing anyone could have done. I held her all night while she sobbed. I felt helpless, like the universe had dangled hope in front of us and then yanked it away. But something felt off. She wouldn't let me see the discharge papers. As if she forgot them. Wouldn't talk about the hospital. Flinched when I asked simple questions. It wasn't grief, it was fear. I tried to dismiss it. Told myself grief looks different on everyone. But a part of my brain kept buzzing. So I started doing something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. She's always been protective of it. But one morning while she was showering, I took a risk. I knew her password. I opened her texts, and my world shattered. There was a thread with a contact saved as L. Dozens of messages. Then hundreds. Then explicit photos. It wasn't just an affair. She was in love with him. She told him she wished she'd met him sooner, that she was trapped in a marriage built on guilt, that he was the real father of her child, that she was torn about whether to leave me, that she hated herself but couldn't stop, that she didn't want to give up the baby, but if I found out it wasn't mine, I'd never forgive her. The kicker, the date of conception, based on her messages, was before she told me she was pregnant, meaning she knew it, wasn't mine. She'd already decided how she was going to lie. The miscarriage, a cover-up. She never went to the hospital. She was never even pregnant for long. One of the texts said, "I panicked. Told him I lost it. It's cleaner this way." I couldn't live with the lie. I felt like vomiting. I copied everything, took screenshots, printed them. Then I left, packed a bag, went to my brother's. I didn't tell her I knew. I just said I needed space. She blew up my phone. Begged me to come back. Said she couldn't lose me too. After 2 days I confronted her. I sat her down, said I wanted to talk about the miscarriage, asked her, calmly, why there were no hospital records, no appointment follow-ups, why. She flinched whenever I mentioned the ER, why she blocked me from going with her. She went white. Then I slid the folder across the table. She didn't even open it. Just looked at it and started crying. Not the kind of crying you do when you're caught. This was guttural, like something inside her broke. She confessed everything, that she'd met L at work. He was a contractor who came in for a 6-month project. That it started as harmless flirting. That it became a full-blown affair within a month. That she was terrified but also felt alive for the first time in years. That she got pregnant. That she knew it wasn't mine. That she didn't want to abort, but couldn't live with the guilt of raising another man's baby in our home. That she faked the miscarriage so she could reset. I asked if she still loved him. She said she didn't know. I asked if she loved me. She said, Yes, but not the way I should. It was like getting stabbed with a spoon, slow, brutal, lingering. She begged me not to tell anyone, said it would destroy her family, that her mother would disown her, that her father would never look at her the same, that she'd rather die than have our friends find out. But here's the thing, I'm so tired of protecting her. For years I supported her through depression, anxiety, infertility struggles. I stood by her while she took sabbaticals, changed careers, found herself. I never once shamed her, pressured her, or left her alone. And she looked me in the eye while carrying another man's child and let me believe I was finally going to be a father. She watched me cry tears of joy. She let me talk about names, dream about the future, build a crib. And then she destroyed it all. I haven't told anyone yet. I feel frozen, trapped. I don't want to blow up her life, but I also feel like I've been choking on my own silence. We haven't filed for divorce yet. She keeps asking for counseling, says we can rebuild. But how do you rebuild on ashes? I look at her now and I don't see my wife. I see a stranger wearing her skin. I don't know what I'm asking for here. Advice, validation, maybe just a place to finally scream into the void, because I don't think I can carry this anymore. My wife cheated on me with her high school ex, and I found out in the worst way possible. Now I'm not sure my son is mine. I, 34M, used to believe that if you married your best friend, everything else would fall into place. I genuinely thought I had the perfect life. A loving wife, a wonderful little boy, a stable job, and a house we built together, literally. We designed every inch of it ourselves and spent weekends painting, laying tile, arguing about backsplash colors. We weren't rich, but we were proud of what we built. My wife, Emily, 33F, and I met when we were 20, college sweethearts, married by 25, first kid at 28. I thought we were the real deal. Things weren't perfect, no relationship is, but I truly believed we were solid. We made each other laugh. We fought fair, we had the same goals. She supported my career when I switched paths, and I supported her when she wanted to go back to school for her master's. We had a rhythm, a partnership, which is why what I'm about to tell you has shattered my entire sense of reality. About 6 months ago, Emily started acting different. It wasn't dramatic, just subtle enough that I started second-guessing myself. She started wearing makeup every day, even when working from home. She was glued to her phone more. She was more tired at night and stopped initiating affection. She started going out with friends from work, a lot more. Happy hours. That turned into late nights. She'd claim she was staying at her friend Rachel's place to avoid driving drunk. I trusted her. I wanted to believe her. But the cracks started spreading. One night, she left her laptop open in the kitchen. I didn't go looking for anything, I swear, but when I went to plug it in, an iMessage popped up. From a number I didn't recognize, the message just said, "God, I miss your mouth." My heart sank into my stomach. I clicked the thread. And that's when everything collapsed. It was dozens, hundreds of messages. Some were recent, others went back almost a year. Flirty, dirty, emotional, photos, memories, references to things they'd done in high school. Him calling her M, her calling him the one that got away, her telling him she wished she'd waited, that she felt trapped in the life she'd built, that she sometimes looked at our son and saw him as an anchor, that she couldn't imagine living without the other man. His name was Tyler. I didn't know him. But when I went down the rabbit hole, I discovered he was her ex-boyfriend from high school, the first love, the one she said broke her heart, the one she told me she hadn't spoken to in over a decade. That was a lie. She reconnected with him 2 years ago on Facebook. They started talking, then meeting up. At first, she told him she was just curious, that she wanted to see what it felt like. But it became a full-blown affair, weekends, hotels, daytime meetups while I was at work. That Rachel's apartment story? A cover. Rachel didn't even know she was being used as an alibi. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I was in shock. I copied everything, took photos, backed up the messages. I needed time to breathe, to think. That was when I noticed something else. In one of the messages from a year ago, she told Tyler, Sometimes I wonder if he even knows that you might be the real father. My vision went blurry. My son is 5. They reconnected 2 years ago, but there was another message earlier, dated. Over 5 years ago. If you hadn't broken up with me after graduation, he wouldn't even exist. What the hell did that mean? Was she suggesting she and Tyler had slept together before our son was conceived? I was spiraling, completely losing my grip. So I did the unthinkable. I swabbed my son's cheek while he was sleeping and sent in a paternity test. It was the most shameful, painful thing I've ever done in my life. I love that boy more than anything. He is my son in every way that matters. But I had to know 2 weeks of hell. In those 2 weeks, I tried to act normal. I smiled, played board games, read bedtime stories, all while looking at Emily and wondering what else I didn't know. I kept thinking, who are you? How many nights had she kissed me and then gone to him? How many times had she looked me in the eye and told me she loved me while planning to run away? Then the results came. 999% chance he's mine. I collapsed onto the floor and cried. Not relief, grief, because I realized that even though he was mine, everything else wasn't. Our life, our love, our story. So, I confronted her. She denied it at first, called me paranoid, said I was reading too much into things. I showed her the messages. Her face went pale, then angry. How dare you go through my messages? That was her response, not I'm sorry, not I can explain. Just pure rage that I caught her. She eventually admitted it, said it meant nothing. That she just needed to feel wanted again, that I hadn't been paying attention, that she felt like a roommate, not a wife, that Tyler understood her, that he made her feel alive. I asked if she loved him. She didn't answer. I asked if she was going to leave me for him. She said, I don't know. That night, I packed a bag and went to stay at my brother's. I couldn't look at her. I didn't even take my toothbrush. Now, 3 months later, the fallout is still burning. We're legally separated. She's still in the house. I didn't want to traumatize our son by uprooting everything at once, and frankly, I didn't want him in a hotel or crashing on a couch. So I pay the mortgage. I see him every other weekend. She's still talking to Tyler, but claims they're on a break because she needs to work on herself. Translation, she wants to keep her options open. Half of our mutual friends have ghosted me. Turns out they knew, or at least suspected. One even said, well, you always worked so much. As if that justified it. Emily's family is begging me to reconsider, saying kids need 2 parents, that she made a mistake, that I should fight for my marriage. But how do you fight for something that already died? I'm in therapy. Now, trying to process the betrayal, the gaslighting, the loss of the future I thought I had. My son doesn't know anything. He just knows Daddy doesn't live at home anymore. I keep it cheerful, positive. But at night, when I'm alone, I replay everything, all the lies, all the nights I thought we were okay. I'm writing this because I don't know what to do next. Do I file for divorce and end it cleanly? Do I try to forgive her for my son's sake? Do I wait to see if she comes back, if it was just a phase? Don't even know what's real anymore. All I know is this, she was my best friend, and now I can't even look at her without feeling like I'm staring at a stranger. Am I the a-hole for exposing my cousin's secret at his wedding, which ended with his bride leaving him at the altar? This story is going to make me look like the villain to some of you. I've had months to think about it, and part of me still doesn't know if I did the right thing. But at the time it felt like the only choice I had, even if it blew everything up. My name is Liv, 28F. My cousin Jason, 30M, and I grew up practically like siblings. Our moms are sisters. We were born 2 years apart, went to the same schools, spent every summer together at our grandparents' lake house, and he was my first real best friend. He's one of the smartest, most charming people you'll ever meet. Everyone likes Jason. Teachers, bosses, strangers at the bar. He just knows how to talk to people. But growing up with him, I saw the other side too. Jason lies. A lot. It's like second nature to him. White lies, big lies, fake stories, double lives. He always finds a way to make himself look better, cooler, more in control than he really is. And when he gets caught, he spins harder. It's honestly kind of impressive the way he can manipulate a conversation in real time. I think he could talk a snake into shedding its skin backwards. In college, Jason had a string of girlfriends, all of whom ended up heartbroken. One caught him cheating. Another found out he was still sleeping with his ex while dating her. He always had an excuse, a sob story, and the family always forgave him. Boys will be boys. He's just figuring himself out. He didn't mean to hurt anyone. Then came Michelle. Michelle, 29F, was unlike any girl Jason had dated before. She was grounded, sweet, but sharp. The kind of person who could read a room in 5 seconds. She was studying to become a nurse when they met, and from day one it was clear she kept Jason on his toes. She didn't fall for his crap. When he messed up, she called him out. She didn't play into his games. Honestly, I liked her a lot. Jason and Michelle dated for about 3 years. I don't know what happened during the second half of that because Jason started to get cagey, stopped bringing her to family events, said she was working too much. Michelle and I weren't close, but we followed each other on Instagram and she never posted about Jason. I always got the feeling something was off. Then, out of nowhere, Jason proposed. The whole family was thrilled. Michelle seemed genuinely happy. The ring was huge. They planned a spring wedding in a vineyard an hour outside our city. Fast forward to 2 weeks before the wedding. I went out for drinks with a group of college friends, including my old roommate, Becca. At one point, Becca pulls me aside and says, "Hey, is your cousin Jason getting married soon?" I said yes, and she got really quiet. Then she told me that her friend Monica had been seeing a guy named Jason for the past 8 months. He said he was single. He told her he wasn't looking for anything serious, but they'd been sleeping together and occasionally hanging out. Becca showed me Monica's Instagram, and I saw the messages. It was Jason. Same number, same dumb jokes, same face. I felt sick. Jason had been cheating on Michelle for at least 8 months while planning a wedding. Monica had no idea he was engaged. She thought he was a commitment phobe, not a liar. Becca offered to get Monica to talk to me if I wanted proof. I didn't sleep that night. The next day I called Jason and asked to meet. I confronted him with what I knew, and he didn't even try to deny it. He just sighed and said, "Look, I've been meaning to end it. It's nothing. She knows what this is. Michelle is who I'm marrying, not her." I asked him if Michelle knew. He said, "Of course not, and she doesn't need to. It would destroy her, and the wedding and everything." "Come on, Liv, you're smarter than this." I told him he had to tell Michelle. He said no, said I needed to drop it, that he was handling it. I left. I cried in my car. I called my mom. She begged me not to say anything, said it wasn't my place, said boys screw up and Jason would settle down after marriage. My aunt, Jason's mom, called me that night and straight up told me that if I ruined the wedding, she would never forgive me. I felt trapped. If I said nothing, Michelle would marry a liar. If I said something, I'd nuke the family. But in my gut, I knew Michelle deserved to know. So I sent her an anonymous package. It included screenshots of Jason's messages to Monica, the dates, a printout of his profile on a dating app, which Becca helped me find, and a note that said, "You deserve the truth before you say, 'I do.' Ask Jason about Monica." I didn't sign it. I didn't tell anyone. Then came the wedding. Everything looked perfect. Michelle looked stunning. Jason was grinning like the cat who swallowed the canary. The ceremony was about to start when someone whispered something to the officiant. A pause. A shuffle. Then Michelle walked out, her face stone cold. She walked right up to Jason and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "How long were you going to keep lying to me?" Gasps. Silence. Then chaos. Jason looked shocked, then furious. He started stammering. Michelle took off her engagement ring, threw it at his feet, and walked out of the venue. Her parents followed. Guests started whispering. Jason chased after her. The rest is a blur. The wedding was cancelled. Over the next week, everything came out. Michelle figured out I was the one who sent the package. I guess my note was too specific. She thanked me, then blocked my number, said she needed space. Jason lost his mind. He called me screaming, said I ruined his life. My aunt disowned me. My mom is disappointed. Half the family has cut me off, but some cousins told me thank you. Quietly, said they always knew Jason was shady but never had proof. One of them even said, I saved Michelle's life. It's been 3 months. Jason moved in with Monica, who, shocker, forgave him. My family is still torn. Holidays were a disaster. I haven't spoken to my aunt since. My mom keeps begging me to apologize, to keep the peace. But I don't feel sorry. Michelle didn't deserve to marry a liar. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for cutting my sister out of my life after she confessed something on my wedding day that shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage? Let me just start by saying this. I loved my sister more than anyone in the world, at least I used to. She was my best friend, my maid of honor, my confidant since we were kids. We used to joke that we were twins born 3 years apart. We even had matching tattoos that said ride or die, which now feels like a cosmic joke. I, 30F, got married 6 months ago to Ethan, 32M, the man I thought was the love of my life. We'd been together for 7 years, through thick and thin, and had one of those slow burn love stories. We were friends first, then roommates, then finally got together, after denying our feelings for years. Everyone rooted for us. My family loved him, especially my sister Brooke, 33F. Brooke and Ethan got along from the start. Too well, maybe, but I never thought anything of it. Brooke is charismatic, magnetic, a bit flirty by nature, but she's like that with everyone. And Ethan is charming but respectful, the kind of guy who'll pull your chair out but never cross a line. At least I thought. The months leading up to the wedding were chaotic, like any wedding. Brooke was my rock. She organized my bachelorette party, handled our complicated family dynamics with grace, even mediated when my mom started picking fights about the guest list. She made a speech at the rehearsal dinner that made everyone cry, including Ethan. I felt so lucky, so safe. Then came the wedding day. We got married at a vineyard. It was beautiful, sunny, perfect. Everything went off without a hitch. I walked down the aisle to tears and gasps. Ethan was crying, I was glowing. We said our vows, we kissed. The reception was magical. It was everything I dreamed of, until about 2 hours into the party. Brooke pulled me aside during the reception. She was drunk, emotional, talking fast. At first I thought she was just overwhelmed. She said, I need to tell you something. I can't let you go into this blind. I laughed and told her it was too late for that. I was already married. But then she got serious. Her hands were shaking. And then she said it. I slept with Ethan once. It was years ago, before you were engaged. But I needed you to know. I blinked, laughed, thought it was a twisted joke. But she was crying. She looked devastated. And she kept saying it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. We were drunk. It just happened. I felt the floor drop out from under me. She told me it happened 3 years ago, when Ethan and I were on a break for 2 weeks after a big fight. He stayed at her apartment one night after a party. She said they were both drunk, that she regretted it immediately, that it never happened again, that she never told me because she didn't want to ruin what we had. But now that I was married, she couldn't live with the guilt. I didn't speak, I just walked away. I went straight to the bridal suite and locked the door. I remember tearing off my veil, staring at my reflection, wondering what kind of pathetic joke my life had just become. I confronted Ethan that night. He admitted it, said it was a low point, that he and Brooke were trying to comfort each other, and things got out of hand. He said he thought it was behind him, that it didn't matter anymore, that he loved me and only me. He cried. I didn't. I didn't tell anyone else that night. I plastered on a smile, took photos, cut the cake, danced, hugged guests, pretended. Everything was okay, because what was I supposed to do? Tell my 120 guests, hey, thanks for coming to my wedding. My husband cheated on me with my sister. We left for our honeymoon the next day. I was silent the entire flight. Ethan begged me to talk. I told him I needed time. The honeymoon was a blur. I didn't touch him, barely looked at him. I spent most nights in the bathtub, drinking mini bottles of vodka from the minibar. I don't even remember the beaches. Just the white noise in my head. When we got back, I told Brooke I never wanted to see her again. That was 6 months ago. Since then, the family has slowly caught on. Brooke told our parents, who are now furious with me for shutting her out and holding a grudge. My mom says I'm destroying the family over a mistake. My dad says at least it happened before you were engaged. My cousin says she told you the truth. That should count for something. But none of them seem to understand what it felt like to be betrayed by the two people I trusted most, on the most important day of my life. I've barely spoken to Ethan. We still live together, but in separate bedrooms. We've been to counseling. He wants to fix things. I'm not sure I do. I stare at him sometimes and feel like I'm looking at a stranger. Worse, I wonder if they've still been in touch. If that once was a lie, if it ever stopped. The thing that really breaks me? We were trying for a baby before the wedding. We had stopped using protection. What if I had gotten pregnant and found this out later? What kind of example would I be to a daughter to forgive and forget something like this? What kind of message does that send? Now, with the holidays coming, my parents are begging me to come home. They say I should make peace for Christmas, that Brooke feels terrible and has learned her lesson, that family is all you've got. But all I feel is anger and grief, and this crushing, cold sense that the sister I thought I had never really existed. I miss her, but I don't forgive her. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for cutting my sister out of my life, possibly forever, after she admitted she slept with my husband on my wedding day, even if it only happened once? Even if it was years ago? Even if she confessed? Or am I justified in protecting myself from someone who proved that blood doesn't mean loyalty? Am I the a-hole for kicking out my mum and refusing to let her meet my newborn son because of what she did to my brother 20 years ago? I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would cut off their own mother, especially not during one of the most important moments of my life. But here I am, with a baby boy just 2 weeks old and no intention of ever letting my mom hold him. She doesn't even know his name. And as much as people are calling me cruel, selfish, heartless, I feel like I've finally made peace with a decision that should have happened a long time ago. But now that the baby's here, the guilt is creeping back in. So I'm writing this in hopes that someone can tell me if I really am the monster everyone's making me out to be. My name is Jordan, 33M. I'm married to my wife, Haley, 31F, and we just had our first child. His name is Caleb. He's beautiful, healthy, perfect. I never wanted to bring a child into the kind of chaotic family I grew up in, and I told myself I'd never repeat the mistakes my parents made. My dad died when I was 13, so it was just my mom, Letitia, 58F, my brother Matthew, now 35M, and me for most of my adolescence. At least, that's the story she told everyone, that she was a struggling widow doing her best to raise 2 boys. What people didn't know was that Matthew was her scapegoat, and I was her golden child. She was never physically abusive, but emotionally. She might as well have drawn blood. Matthew got the brunt of it. Everything he did was wrong. If he got a B on a test, it was because he was lazy. If he got an A, it was because the teacher felt sorry for him. If he forgot to take out the trash, once she'd call him ungrateful, irresponsible, a burden. I watched her scream at him for eating the last granola bar, accuse him of stealing from her. I remember her yanking him out of bed at 6 a.m. on a Saturday because he hadn't vacuumed the living room on Friday. And yet when I forgot my chores or brought home C's, she'd ruffle my hair and say, "That's my baby. You'll do better next time." It was confusing as hell. I loved my brother. Still do. He protected me, took the blame for things I did, hid snacks in his room and shared them with me when she punished us both. He once lied and said he broke a neighbor's window when it was actually me throwing a rock. She grounded him. For 2 months. He never told. I was too young to understand what was happening then, but now I see it clearly. She hated him. I don't know why. And it broke him. By the time he was 16, he started using pills. By 18, he was gone. He dropped out, couch-surfed, eventually got arrested for petty theft. My mum told everyone he was a bad seed, that drugs ruined him, that he'd broken her heart. At family gatherings, people would whisper about him like he was some cautionary tale. Meanwhile, I was getting awards, scholarships, the good son narrative, and I lived in shame. Fast forward to my 20s, I found Matthew. He was 6 years sober, working construction, renting a studio in a rough part of town, but alive. I broke down when I saw him. I told him everything, that I knew, that I was sorry, that I wished I had stood up for him. He hugged me and said, "You were just a kid, man, you didn't know." We've been rebuilding ever since, slowly, painfully, but genuinely. When I got engaged, I invited him. My mom protested, said he'd ruin everything, said she wouldn't come if he did. I told her she was welcome to stay home. She showed up anyway, sat stiffly in the back, didn't speak to him. But I could tell it hurt him. I told her after the wedding that if she ever wanted to be in my life, she'd need to apologize to Matthew. She laughed in my face. Then I told her about the pregnancy. I thought maybe the idea of being a grandma would soften her. Instead, she said, "Just don't let your junkie brother babysit. He'll steal your silverware." That was it. That was the last straw. I blocked her number. Told her I didn't want her near my kid. My wife supported me. So did Matthew. But my extended family, that's where it got messy. Once the baby was born, the messages started. "You're punishing your mother for the past. Don't rob. You're child of a grandmother. She lost her husband and did the best she could." Even my aunt, who used to cry when she talked about how Letitia treated Matthew, told me to let it go, because babies heal wounds. But I don't think babies heal anything. I think babies are vulnerable. They deserve protection, and I refuse to let someone who emotionally destroyed my brother anywhere near my son. She showed up at the hospital. Security turned her away. She left a letter in the nurse's station. "I'm sorry you feel this way, but I deserve to meet my grandson." No apology, no acknowledgement, just entitlement. My wife was furious. I burned the letter. That's when things went nuclear. My cousin, who I hadn't spoken to in years, posted a long rant on Facebook tagging me, saying I was abusing my power as a parent, manipulating family dynamics, and playing God with my child's relationships. Some mutual friends liked it. My uncle called and told me to be the bigger person, that holding grudges never ends well. But isn't a grudge something petty? This isn't about a grudge. It's about keeping toxicity out of my child's life. If someone had protected Matthew, maybe he wouldn't have ended up addicted, arrested, discarded. I won't make the same mistake. Now she's threatening legal action for grandparents' rights, which I don't even think apply in our state unless there's a death or divorce. She's grasping at straws, telling people I'm mentally unstable, that Haley is controlling me, that Matthew's filled my head with lies. But they're not lies. I lived it. I saw it. I remember the bruises on his arms from punching walls after she screamed at him. I remember the silence at dinner when he would quietly cry and no one said a word. And yet, sometimes, when I'm rocking Caleb to sleep, I wonder, will he hate me one day for this? Will he resent me for cutting out his grandmother? Will he grow up and ask, why didn't I know her? And if he does, what will I say? So here it is. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my mom meet my son because of how she treated my brother 20 years ago? Or am I protecting my family in the only way I know how? Am I the a-hole for revealing my dad's secret second family at his retirement party and destroying my entire extended family in the process? This story is so tangled, I don't even know where to start. I, 32, have been living in what I thought was a fairly ordinary family for most of my life. My parents, David, 65M, and Carolyn, 63F, had been married for 42 years. I'm their only child. We were close, or so I believed. We had the usual family dinners, holidays together, phone calls on Sundays. My dad worked as a civil engineer and traveled a lot for work, but he always came home. He always remembered birthdays. He always smiled for pictures. He coached my soccer team in high school, bought me my first car, helped me get my first apartment. He was the kind of dad people envied. Reliable, kind, involved, or so it seemed. But everything shattered earlier this year, and I'm the one who set off the nuclear bomb without fully realizing it. Dad retired this past February after 40-plus years, at the same engineering firm. He was celebrated at work with a plaque and glowing speeches. My mum and I decided to throw a big retirement party for him in March, complete with extended family, colleagues, and longtime family friends. We rented out a hall, decorated it with old photos and put together a slideshow of his life. Baby pictures, wedding photos, me as a kid, vacations, holidays. It was nostalgic and sweet, until it wasn't. See, 2 months before the party, I was cleaning out my parents' attic while helping them downsize. In an old locked filing cabinet, I found a thick manila folder with bills, pictures, cards, and a few letters, all addressed to David Thompson. My dad's name. But the return addresses were all from a different city, 4 hours away. Curious, I opened the folder. What I found made my blood run cold. Inside were pictures of my dad with another woman. Not scandalous ones, just regular. Photos of him holding a baby, playing in a backyard, posing with a little girl at what looked like a birthday party. The woman appeared in many of them, smiling beside him, arm linked with his. The letters inside were from a child. Happy Father's Day, Daddy. I miss you, Daddy. The drawings, the handwriting, the timeline. It started when I was about 7 years old. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I thought maybe a relative I'd never heard of. Maybe he sponsored a family through some program, but it didn't make sense. Why were there hotel receipts, airline tickets, letters from this child saying things like, "Can you come back?" For my recital. I went deeper. I took a day off work, drove to the address listed on multiple envelopes, and sat in my car outside the house. After an hour, I saw her, the woman from the photos, and then a girl. She looked to be around 22, a university student maybe, and she called him. Dad. I heard it. I saw him get out of his car with a bag of takeout, kiss the woman on the cheek and hug the girl. I wanted to throw up. I sat in my car, shaking. I felt like my entire childhood was a lie. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. This was a full-blown second life. And he'd been living it alongside ours seamlessly for over 2 decades. I went home and told my mom. She went white, then grey, then she cried so hard she collapsed. I thought she knew. Some part of me assumed she had to have known. But she didn't, and it destroyed her. She begged me not to say anything before the party. She wanted to confront him quietly. But when she did, he denied it, said it was just a friendship, that the girl wasn't his, that it was all exaggerated. But the photos, the letters, they told the truth. My mom stopped, talking to him. She moved into the guest room, but the party was still on. Everyone was flying in. She asked me to keep it quiet, not make a scene, said she needed time to figure out what to do. I said I'd try. The night of the party came. Over 100 people filled the hall. Toasts were made. My dad looked happy, almost smug. He stood up to speak, thanked everyone, and started talking about integrity and commitment. I snapped. Something inside me broke. I stood up, walked to the mic, and said, "I'd like to say a few words too." My mum's eyes widened. She mouthed, "Don't," but I couldn't stop. I said, "I'd like to raise a toast to my father, David Thompson, a man who somehow managed to juggle one career, one wife, one son, and apparently one entire secret family for 23 years. Gasps. Silence. My dad went pale. My aunt dropped her wineglass. I continued. I said I'd met the other woman, seen the other child, that he'd lied to all of us, that our lives were built on betrayal. I finished by saying, "Here's to retirement, Dad. I hope it gives you plenty of time to explain all of this." Then I left. The room erupted after I walked out. My mum followed, sobbing. My dad didn't say a word, just stood there, frozen. The fallout has been biblical. Half my extended family is furious at me. My mum's side supports me. My dad's side is split. Some blame him, others say I should have kept it private. My dad's reputation is ruined. His friends dropped him. His firm quietly distanced itself. And the other family? The woman apparently didn't know about us either. She thought he was divorced. The daughter is furious. She sent me a message on Facebook saying I'd ruined her life, too. My mom has filed for divorce. She says she'll never forgive him. My dad has been emailing me, begging me to talk. He says I humiliated him in front of everyone he's ever known, that I destroyed the family, that what he did was a mistake, but that I took it too far. I don't know, maybe I did, maybe I should have let my mom handle it. Maybe I should have waited, but I couldn't stand there and listen to him talk about commitment and integrity like he was some role model. I couldn't keep the secret that was eating us alive. So, am I the a-hole for publicly exposing my dad's double life at his retirement party and blowing up 2 families? Am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret child at her wedding and destroying her relationship with our parents? This whole thing exploded last month, but the fallout is still ongoing, and I've basically been cut off from most of my family. I, 28F, was always close with my younger sister, Jessica, 25F. Growing up, we were only 3 years apart, and even though we had our differences, she was always the pretty one, the sociable one, the one everyone loved. We were tight, until we weren't. Things started falling apart about 6 years ago when Jessica got pregnant at 19. It was sudden, messy, and totally unexpected. She told me, and only me, begged me not to tell our very conservative, very religious parents. She was scared, ashamed, and still in college, and I understood. I helped her. I took her to appointments, brought her groceries when she was too sick to go out, and even held her hand during labor. Her boyfriend bailed the second he found out she wasn't terminating. I was her rock. I never breathed a word of it to anyone. Even when it meant lying to our parents or covering for her disappearing for months. She gave birth to a boy, Jonah. He was beautiful. And for 6 months I watched her love him with a fierceness that amazed me. But then something changed. She started pulling away. She'd disappear for days. She'd come back crying, saying she didn't want to do this anymore, that she was drowning, that she never wanted to be a mom. I tried to get her help, therapy, support groups, even offering to babysit more. But she was slipping. Then one day she asked me if I could take him. Not babysit. Not for the weekend. Raise him. She said she couldn't do it. She wanted her life back. I was shocked. I told her I'd think about it. I didn't know what to do. I was 23, fresh out of college, broke, and trying to figure out my own life. I loved Jonah, but I wasn't ready to be anyone's mother. That night, she left him with me. And just didn't come back. For 3 weeks she ignored my calls. When she finally answered, she said she'd moved in with a new boyfriend 2 states over. She said she was going to start fresh. She said she was sorry. And then she hung up. I was horrified. But what could I do? I couldn't give him to foster care. I couldn't tell our parents. She made me swear I wouldn't. So I filed for emergency guardianship. It took months. I had to move to a bigger place, take a second job, and basically rearrange my entire life. But I did it. Because I loved him. Because someone had to. I raised Jonah. I potty trained him, got him into preschool, read him bedtime stories, and comforted him during nightmares. I became his mom in every way but blood. And Jessica, she was gone. For 3 years she didn't visit, didn't call, not even a birthday card. Then, when he was almost 4, she reappeared. She was engaged. She'd met some guy, Daniel, who came from a wealthy family, and they were getting married in a huge, expensive wedding. She wanted to reconnect. I was cautious, but open. I brought Jonah to meet her. He didn't recognize her. Called me mommy right in front of her, and she flinched. I thought maybe this would wake her up. Maybe she'd finally step up. But instead, she ghosted us again for a few more months. Then came the wedding. I was invited, but Jonah wasn't. That stung. She said it was a child-free event, but I knew her fiancé didn't know about Jonah, I could just tell. She introduced me to everyone as her amazing older sister, but kept steering me away from any deep conversations. Eventually, I cornered her and asked point blank if Daniel knew she had a son. She froze, said no, said it would ruin everything, that his family wouldn't accept her if they knew she had a child out of wedlock, that they were finally treating her like she was good enough, and she couldn't blow it. I was furious. I reminded her Jonah was her son, not a mistake to be hidden. She said, "He's yours now, that's what you wanted, right?" Like I'd stolen him. I walked away before I could scream at her. Then came the reception. I was seated near Daniel's family, who were all polite but curious about me. One of his cousins asked if I had kids, and I said yes, I had a 5-year-old son named Jonah. She smiled and said, "Jessica told us you were single. Is he adopted?" I froze. Something in me snapped, and I said, "No, he's my nephew, Jessica's son. I've been raising him since she abandoned him 5 years ago." The entire table went silent. One of Daniel's aunts whispered something and stood up. Within minutes, people were buzzing. And then came the shouting. Daniel dragged Jessica out of the ballroom. She came back crying, makeup running, and screamed at me in front of everyone. "You vindictive bitch. You've ruined my life." She slapped me. Right there, I didn't fight back, just walked out. The wedding was called off the next morning. Daniel's family was livid. Turns out they're big on traditional family values. He dumped her immediately. Said if she could lie about something that big, what else was she hiding? Jessica tried to spin it. Said I was jealous, that I was trying to sabotage her happiness. But no one bought it. Our parents, who were shocked and embarrassed to learn they had a grandchild, sided with her. They said I should have told them privately that airing dirty laundry at a wedding was cruel, that I ruined her future out of spite. Now, they won't speak to me. Jessica has blocked me, and I'm left with Jonah, who has no idea any of this happened. He's happy, healthy, and just started kindergarten. He calls me Mom. He is my son in every way that counts. But I still lie awake at night wondering if I did the right thing. Maybe I should have stayed quiet. Maybe I should have let her have her fairy tale. But then I remember her saying, "He's yours now, and I see red." So tell me, Reddit, am I the a-hole for exposing my sister's secret child at her wedding and destroying her relationship and future? Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister and her kids out of my house after they destroyed my late wife's art studio, 42M, have been a widower for 6 years? My wife, Amelia, passed away in a car accident in 2018. We were together for 13 years, married for 9. We never had children, though we had planned to. Her death wrecked me in ways I still can't fully articulate. Grief is like living underwater. Everything is heavy, slow, and cold. And even when you think you've found your footing, something pulls you back under. Amelia was a painter, not professionally but passionately. Her art was her everything. The way she processed emotions, celebrated joy, dealt with pain. Our garage was her studio. It wasn't fancy. Concrete floors, a bunch of easels, brushes, and canvases. But it was her space. She spent hours in there every day, sometimes painting until 3 a.m. After she passed, I couldn't bring myself to touch it. I kept the room exactly the way she left it. Canvases stacked in the corner, half-finished paintings still on the easel, brushes still in jars of murky water that had since dried up. For a while, I went in just to sit and remember her. Eventually, I stopped going in. But I never let anyone else go in either. It was sacred. Her little temple. Now here's where it gets complicated. My younger sister, Beth, 39F, has always had a rough time. She's a single mom of 3 kids, 10F, 7M, and 5M, divorced twice, and constantly in financial crisis. I've helped her out more times than I can count. Rent, car repairs, grocery money, you name it. I don't resent it. She's my sister, and the kids are great, if a bit wild. But Beth has always been a bit entitled, like the world owes her something for her suffering. She's also messy, impulsive, and has a knack for making her problems everyone else's emergency. Back in March, Beth got evicted from her apartment. Again. She called me in tears, saying she had nowhere to go, that the shelters were full, and could she please stay with me for a few weeks while she got back on her feet. I hesitated. I live in a modest 2-bedroom house, but what was I going to do? Say no and let my niece and nephew sleep in a car? So I said yes. I told her she and the kids could stay in the guest room and use the pull-out couch. I made one. Rule, just one. Stay out of Amelia's studio. I told Beth it was off limits. I didn't care if she needed storage space or if the kids were curious. That door stays shut. She nodded and said, "Of course, I understand." Fast forward to last week. They'd been staying with me for a little over 2 months. It was stressful. The house was chaotic, constantly messy, loud. I work from home and focusing was almost impossible. Beth barely helped around the house. She cooked maybe 3 times, never offered rent. I didn't push because, again, I thought this was temporary. I figured she just needed to stabilize. I started to notice some weird things. The studio doors, which I always kept closed, was open a few times. I confronted Beth, and she claimed the kids must have been playing near it and it swung open. I didn't like that answer, but I let it go. Then, one morning, I woke up to screaming. Not angry screaming, chaotic, kid-type yelling. I rushed out of my bedroom and followed the noise. It was coming from the studio. I opened the door and I swear to God, for a moment I thought I was having a stroke. The studio, Amelia's studio, was wrecked. Paint spilled everywhere, canvases slashed and scribbled on, brushes broken, water. Jars shattered, paint smeared on the walls. One of Amelia's largest final paintings, one I had planned to donate to a gallery, was half covered in neon pink handprints. The kids were running around barefoot laughing. Beth was nowhere to be seen. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just stood there shaking, staring at the destruction of the last physical connection I had to my wife. Then Beth came in holding a plate of toast, all casual, and said, "Oh my God, what happened?" I turned to her and said, "They got in." She looked around and shrugged and said, "Well, maybe it's a sign you need to let go, you know? She's gone. Maybe this is the universe telling you to move on," I snapped. I told her to get the kids, pack their stuff, and get out. She laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. I told her she had 2 hours to be out of my house. She tried to argue, said I was overreacting, said it was just some paint, and that I couldn't possibly kick children onto the street. I told her I'd pay for a motel for a week, but I wanted them gone. Today. Beth started crying. She called me cruel, heartless, obsessed with a dead woman. She said I needed therapy. I told her she needed boundaries and to stop treating my kindness like a buffet line. She left that afternoon after calling our mom to tell her I kicked out a single mom over some stupid paintings. Now my family is torn. My mother thinks I overreacted and should have forgiven Beth, that things can be cleaned, and kids make mistakes. My older brother says I was right and that Beth's been taking advantage of people for years. Friends are split. Some say it's harsh to evict children. Others say I had every right. I still feel sick about the whole thing. I miss the kids. I wish this hadn't happened. But every time I think about that room, the ruined canvases, the cavalier shrug from Beth, I just feel grief and rage all over again. So tell me, Reddit, am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister and her kids after they destroyed my late wife's art studio? Edit. Clarifications. Yes, I had the studio door locked. They found the key in a kitchen drawer. I kept it there because I never expected anyone to go looking for it. That's on me. The motel I paid for was $650 for the week. Beth used it for 3 nights before moving in with a friend. The painting they ruined had emotional and financial value. A local art dealer once offered Amelia $3,000 for it. I refused to sell. Now it's gone. I am in therapy, have been for years. It's part of why I could finally let someone into my home at all. To those saying it's just stuff, can maybe. But to me, it was sacred. And someone I trusted violated that sacred space. Update. 5 days later, Beth posted a long Facebook rant about how her cold, heartless brother chose dead art over living children. My inbox exploded. I responded publicly, calmly explaining what happened, including pictures of the destroyed studio. I didn't attack her. I just showed people what I walked into. Suddenly, the tone shifted. People started apologizing. Even my mom called to say she didn't realize the extent of the damage and that she was sorry for rushing to defend Beth. Beth hasn't spoken to me since. That hurts more than I expected. But you know what hurts more? Sweeping up the glass of the jars Amelia used every day, seeing her signature half covered in kids' paint, realizing that I will never again sit in that room and feel like she's still there. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's best friend she's not welcome in our home anymore after she joked about my son's paternity? Hi Reddit, I really need a sanity check here because this has blown up beyond anything I expected. And now I'm being called controlling, insecure, and emotionally abusive by people I thought were on my side. So I need to know, am I the a-hole here, or is this as messed up as I think it is? I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Claire, 36F, for 8 years. We've been together for 10. We have 1 child together, our son, Jamie, 5M. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Claire and I had a rough time conceiving. We went through a miscarriage and over a year of fertility treatments before we finally had Jamie. He's a happy, goofy, curious little guy who looks a lot like my wife. Same blonde hair, same smile, but he's got my eyes and my weird sense of humor. He's 100% mine, no question in my mind. I love him more than anything on earth. Now the issue is Claire's best friend, Tina, 35F. Claire and Tina have been friends since college. They're very close, like sisters. Tina's been around for most of our relationship. I've never had a problem with her before, other than the fact that she can be a bit pushy, blunt, and extremely opinionated. She's one of those I tell it like it is people who uses honesty as an excuse for cruelty. I've tolerated it because Claire loves her and because I've never had a reason to draw boundaries until now. Tina has always been, weirdly, passive-aggressive toward me. Nothing direct but little jabs, joking that Claire married down when she picked me because she was always the pretty one, teasing that I must have a magic tongue because there's no way a guy like me got someone like her without being good at something. Stuff that's framed like a joke, but makes everyone uncomfortable. Claire usually just rolls her eyes or tells her to knock it off, but she never really stops. Anyway, last month we had Jamie's 5th birthday party. It was just a small gathering and some family, a few close friends, kids from his daycare. Tina showed up late, brought Jamie a gift, a pretty expensive one actually, a Lego set he wanted, and immediately started in with her usual jokes. Everything from "I can't believe you're still married to this doofus" to "Claire, blink twice if you're being held hostage." Again, annoying, but I tried to let it roll off. But then, later in the evening, she crossed a line I can't forgive. A few of us were in the living room while the kids were playing. Someone made a joke about Jamie looking more and more like me every day. I laughed and said, "Poor kid, guess he's stuck with my big forehead." And Tina, without missing a beat, goes, "Yeah, or he just looks like the guy Claire was seeing before you got serious. What was his name, Greg?" Dead. Silence. I thought I misheard at first. I kind of laughed awkwardly and said, "What?" And Tina, still smirking, said, "I mean, hey, if I didn't know better, I'd think Jamie was his kid. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence." I looked at Claire. She was white as a sheet. My mom and Claire's sister were both in the room and their jaws were basically on the floor. I stood up and just said, "That's not funny." Tina tried to laugh it off like she was joking. I told her, "That's not a joke. That's a disgusting thing to say." Claire finally told her to stop and said she was out of line, but Tina just waved it off and said I needed to learn how to take a joke. I didn't want to ruin Jamie's birthday, so I just walked out of the room and went to check on the kids. But inside I was boiling. After everyone left, I told Claire flat out that I didn't want Tina in our house again, that what she said was not only disrespectful to me, but deeply hurtful to her and Jamie, that you don't joke about paternity unless you're actively trying to cause drama. Claire apologized and said she agreed Tina crossed a line, but that she didn't think banning her from the house was necessary. I told her I wasn't going to have someone in our home who disrespects our family like that. She said she'd talk to Tina and make it clear that kind of talk is unacceptable, but that Tina was just being Tina and didn't mean anything by it. Here's where things have gotten worse. Claire did talk to Tina, and Tina apparently told her that I was being controlling and abusive, trying to isolate Claire from her support system. She sent me a long text basically saying I was insecure, pathetic, and clearly hiding something if I was so upset over a joke. That if I really believed Jamie was mine, I wouldn't be so defensive. That's when I blocked her number. Now Claire is caught in the middle. She says she's on my side but also doesn't want to cut Tina off completely. She says Tina is like family and has always been there for her, and that she's trying to keep the peace. I told her there is no peace when someone disrespects our child like that. Claire asked if I'd consider talking it out with Tina. I said no, that the only way I'd be willing to see Tina again is if she gave me a sincere private apology and promised to never bring up anything like that again. And even then I'd only tolerate her outside our home. Claire says I'm drawing a line in the sand and forcing her to choose. I told her no, I'm drawing a boundary, a healthy one. She says she understands where I'm coming from, but that I'm making this a bigger issue than it needs to be. Meanwhile, Tina is still posting cryptic stuff on social media. Some people can't handle strong women. I'd rather be hated for honesty than loved for lies, that kind of garbage. And mutual friends have started weighing in, some taking her side, some taking mine. One even told me, "You do kind of overreact sometimes, bro." I'm just exhausted. I'm trying to protect my family. I'm trying to protect my son. I'm trying to make it clear that there are consequences when people cross boundaries. And yet I'm being painted as the villain. So Reddit, be honest with me. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's best friend she's not welcome in our home anymore after she joked about our son's paternity? Edit. Clarifications. Claire and I were 100% exclusive when we conceived Jamie. There is no possibility, zero, that he's not mine. Tina knows this, which makes her joke even worse. No, I don't have a history of being controlling. Claire manages her own social life, finances, career, etc. I've never told her who she can or can't be friends with, until now. Jamie didn't hear the comment. He was in the other room, but if he were older, if he had heard that, I'd have gone nuclear. That's not something you say around a child, ever. I'm not asking Claire to cut Tina out of her life. I'm asking that she not invite Tina into our home or subject our child to her toxicity. Claire can meet her elsewhere if she wants. That's her business. Update, 1 week later. After reading your responses, and wow, thank you to the thousands who weighed in, I sat down with Claire and had a serious, calm, heartfelt conversation. I told her this wasn't just about a joke. It was about respect. That our home should be a safe space where we don't have to brace ourselves for toxic, inappropriate comments from people who are supposed to love us. That I wasn't asking her to choose between me and Tina. I was asking her to choose what kind of energy we allow around our child. Claire cried. She said she understood. She admitted that Tina has always been a bit of a mean girl, but that she ignored it. Because of their long history, she said she didn't realize how deep this hurt me until I laid it all out. She agreed that Tina won't be coming to the house again. She also said she'd be taking some space from her. Whether that leads to a full friendship breakup, I don't know. That's her decision. As for me, I feel relieved, not triumphant, not like I won, but like I protected something important. I stood up for my kid, for myself, for my marriage, and I don't regret it. So Reddit, with the full story out there. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's best friend she's not welcome in our home anymore after she joked about my son's paternity? Hi Reddit, I really need a sanity check here because this has blown up beyond anything I expected. And now I'm being called controlling, insecure, and emotionally abusive by people I thought were on my side. So I need to know, am I the a-hole here or is this as messed up as I think it is? I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Claire, 36F, for 8 years. We've been together for 10. We have one child together, our son, Jamie, 5M. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Claire and I had a rough time conceiving. We went through a miscarriage and over a year of fertility treatments before we finally had Jamie. He's a happy, goofy, curious little guy who looks a lot like my wife. Same blonde hair, same smile, but he's got my eyes and my weird sense of humor. He's 100% mine, no question in my mind. I love him more than anything on earth. Now the issue is Claire's best friend, Tina, 35F. Claire and Tina have been friends since college. They're very close, like sisters. Tina's been around for most of our relationship. I've never had a problem with her before, other than the fact that she can be a bit pushy, blunt, and extremely opinionated. She's one of those I tell it like it is people who uses honesty as an excuse for cruelty. I've tolerated it because Claire loves her and because I've never had a reason to draw boundaries until now. Tina has always been, weirdly, passive-aggressive toward me. Nothing direct but little jabs, joking that Claire married down when she picked me because she was always the pretty one, teasing that I must have a magic tongue because there's no way a guy like me got someone like her without being good at something. Stuff that's framed like a joke, but makes everyone uncomfortable. Claire usually just rolls her eyes or tells her to knock it off, but she never really stops. Anyway, last month we had Jamie's 5th birthday party. It was just a small gathering and some family, a few close friends, kids from his daycare. Tina showed up late, brought Jamie a gift, a pretty expensive one actually, a Lego set he wanted, and immediately started in with her usual jokes. Everything from "I can't believe you're still married to this doofus" to "Claire, blink twice if you're being held hostage." Again, annoying, but I tried to let it roll off. But then, later in the evening, she crossed a line I can't forgive. A few of us were in the living room while the kids were playing. Someone made a joke about Jamie looking more and more like me every day. I laughed and said, "Poor kid, guess he's stuck with my big forehead." And Tina, without missing a beat, goes, "Yeah, or he just looks like the guy Claire was seeing before you got serious. What was his name, Greg?" Dead. Silence. I thought I misheard at first. I kind of laughed awkwardly and said, "What?" And Tina, still smirking, said, "I mean, hey, if I didn't know better, I'd think Jamie was his kid. But I'm sure. That's just a coincidence." I looked at Claire. She was white as a sheet. My mom and Claire's sister were both in the room and their jaws were basically on the floor. I stood up and just said, "That's not funny." Tina tried to laugh it off like she was joking. I told her, "That's not a joke. That's a disgusting thing to say." Claire finally told her to stop and said she was out of line, but Tina just waved it off and said, I needed to learn how to take a joke. I didn't want to ruin Jamie's birthday, so I just walked out of the room and went to check on the kids. But inside I was boiling. After everyone left, I told Claire flat out that I didn't want Tina in our house again, that what she said was not only disrespectful to me, but deeply hurtful to her and Jamie, that you don't joke about paternity unless you're actively trying to cause drama. Claire apologized and said she agreed Tina crossed a line, but that she didn't think banning her from the house was necessary. I told her I wasn't going to have someone in our home who disrespects our family like that. She said she'd talk to Tina and make it clear that kind of talk is unacceptable, but that Tina was just being Tina and didn't mean anything by it. Here's where things have gotten worse. Claire did talk to Tina, and Tina apparently told her that I was being controlling and abusive, trying to isolate Claire from her support system. She sent me a long text basically saying I was insecure, pathetic, and clearly hiding something if I was so upset over a joke. That if I really believed Jamie was mine, I wouldn't be so defensive. That's when I blocked her number. Now Claire is caught in the middle. She says she's on my side but also doesn't want to cut Tina off completely. She says Tina is like family and has always been there for her, and that she's trying to keep the peace. I told her there is no peace when someone disrespects our child like that. Claire asked if I'd consider talking it out with Tina. I said no, that the only way I'd be willing to see Tina again is if she gave me a sincere private apology and promised to never bring up anything like that again. And even then I'd only tolerate her outside our home. Claire says I'm drawing a line in the sand and forcing her to choose. I told her no, I'm drawing a boundary, a healthy one. She says she understands where I'm coming from, but that I'm making this a bigger issue than it needs to be. Meanwhile, Tina is still posting cryptic stuff on social media. Some people can't handle strong women. I'd rather be hated for honesty than loved for lies, that kind of garbage. And mutual friends have started weighing in, some taking her side, some taking mine. One even told me, "You do kind of overreact sometimes, bro." I'm just exhausted. I'm trying to protect my family. I'm trying to protect my son. I'm trying to make it clear that there are consequences when people cross boundaries, and yet I'm being painted as the villain. So Reddit, be honest with me. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife's best friend she's not welcome in our home anymore after she joked about our son's paternity? Edit. Clarifications. Claire and I were 100% exclusive when we conceived Jamie. There is no possibility, zero, that he's not mine. Tina knows this, which makes her joke even worse. No, I don't have a history of being controlling. Claire manages her own social life, finances, career, etc. I've never told her who she can or can't be friends with, until now. Jamie didn't hear the comment. He was in the other room, but if he were older, if he had heard that, I'd have gone nuclear. That's not something you say around a child, ever. I'm not asking Claire to cut Tina out of her life. I'm asking that she not invite Tina into our home or subject our child to her toxicity. Claire can meet her elsewhere if she wants. That's her business. Update, 1 week later. After reading your responses, and wow, thank you to the thousands who weighed in, I sat down with Claire and had a serious, calm, heartfelt conversation. I told her this wasn't just about a joke. It was about respect. That our home should be a safe space where we don't have to brace ourselves for toxic, inappropriate comments from people who are supposed to love us. That I wasn't asking her to choose between me and Tina. I was asking her to choose what kind of energy we allow around our child. Claire cried. She said she understood. She admitted that Tina has always been a bit of a mean girl, but that she ignored it. Because of their long history, she said she didn't realize how deep this hurt me until I laid it all out. She agreed that Tina won't be coming to the house again. She also said she'd be taking some space from her. Whether that leads to a full friendship breakup, I don't know. That's her decision. As for me, I feel relieved, not triumphant, not like I won, but like I protected something important. I stood up for my kid, for myself, for my marriage, and I don't regret it. So Reddit, with the full story out there. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he's not allowed to name his baby after our deceased sister? Hi Reddit, throwaway account, long-time lurker, first-time poster. This has been tearing my family apart for the past few weeks, and I honestly don't know if I overstepped or if I was just the only one willing to say what needed to be said. I, 31F, come from a family of 5 kids. I'm the second oldest. My older brother Jack, 35M, then me, then Liam, 33M, Sophie would be 29F, and our youngest, Nora, 26F. Sophie passed away unexpectedly in a car accident 4 years ago, and it completely devastated our family. She was the golden child in a lot of ways, not in a spoiled or entitled way, but because she was just that kind, generous, sweet person that everyone loved. She was studying to become a nurse, always volunteered at animal shelters, made homemade gifts for people at Christmas, and always remembered the small things that made people feel special. She was just better than the rest of us. Her death was sudden and awful. She was driving home from a friend's wedding when someone ran a red light and T-boned her. She died on impact. She was 25. We all grieved differently. Jack kind of went stoic, handled all the logistics, was the rock for the family. I threw myself into work and therapy. Liam started drinking heavily for a while. Nora completely withdrew and stopped answering calls for a few months. It was bad. It still is. If I'm honest. Now, fast forward to the present. Jack and his wife Emily, 32F, are expecting their first child. Everyone's thrilled, especially after they went through a miscarriage last year. They recently found out it's a girl. We were all at a family dinner last month when Jack made a toast and announced that they'd chosen a name, Sophie Elise, middle name after Emily's grandma, first name after our sister. The room got quiet. At first it was stunned silence, then my mum started crying. My dad raised his glass. Everyone else just nodded. I sat there, completely frozen. I don't know what it was, but something in me just recoiled. I smiled politely at the time, but I felt sick. For the rest of the night I barely spoke. After we all went home, I couldn't stop thinking about it, for days. It felt wrong to me in a way I couldn't articulate at first. Eventually, I talked to my therapist about it. She helped me unpack it. I realized that to me, Sophie isn't just a beautiful name. It's her. It's sacred. Hearing that name makes me emotional. It feels like reopening a wound every time. I can't imagine calling a baby that and not feeling like we're trying to recreate her, replace her, or live in her shadow. I know it's meant as a tribute, but it feels more like it's hollowing out who she really was to make space for someone else to wear her name like a costume. 2 weeks after the dinner, I asked Jack to meet me for coffee. I told him gently that I felt really uncomfortable with him naming his daughter Sophie. I said I knew it was meant with love, but to me, it felt like we were putting a memorial on a baby, like we weren't letting our sister rest. I said, I felt it would be emotionally difficult to have to call a new baby that, and I worried that it would set up unfair expectations for this child to somehow live up to the original Sophie. Jack got quiet. Then he said, "It's not about you." I said I understood that, and that ultimately it was his and Emily's choice, but I felt like I had to be honest, because if they went through with it, I needed to figure out how I'd manage my own grief around it. He got more agitated, said I was making it about myself, that honoring Sophie should be seen as a good thing, that I was trying to gatekeep her memory. I asked if he had spoken to Nora or Liam about it. He hadn't. I asked if he would. At least consider using Sophie as a middle name instead, or maybe using something that reminded us of her but wasn't so on the nose. Like her favorite flower, Violet, or maybe Elise Sophie instead of Sophie Elise. He said no, that he and Emily had already decided, that I was being cruel for trying to take this away from them. I didn't press it, but I told him I was hurt, and that I might need space if they went through with it. I left in tears. Since then, everything has spiraled. Jack told my parents what I said. My mum called me sobbing, saying I was being heartless and trying to erase Sophie's memory. My dad told me I was making trouble for no reason. Emily texted me a long message saying she was disappointed and confused, and that she thought we were closer than this. Liam actually reached out to say he agrees with me, but didn't want to be the one to bring it up. Nora hasn't said much except, "I don't love it, but I'm staying out of it." The baby is due in August, and I still feel torn. Part of me knows I might be overreacting. That people name their kids after lost loved ones all the time. That it's a common way to honor memory. That it could even be healing. But another part of me feels this deep, protective instinct, like I'm watching someone repaint a masterpiece with a toddler's crayons. Like I'm not ready to share that name, that person, with a new unknown life. So, Reddit, I ask you, am I the a-hole for telling my brother he shouldn't name his baby after our sister? Edit clarifications. Yes, I know they have the final say. I wasn't trying to demand anything. I just wanted to express how I felt so they wouldn't be blindsided by my emotional reaction later. No, I don't think babies are replacements, but I think sometimes grief makes us do things we don't fully process, and I worry this choice might unintentionally create complicated expectations for their child. Also, for context, Sophie had a very specific presence in our family. Her room is still untouched at my parents' house. My mom still posts letters to her on Facebook every year. It's not like we've moved on and are ready to pass the name on like a family heirloom. We're still actively grieving. A few people asked if Emily had any connection to Sophie. Not really. They met a few times and got along fine, but they weren't especially close. Update. 2 weeks later. I didn't expect this post to blow up the way it did. Thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts, especially those who offered kind, nuanced perspectives. I read through hundreds of comments, both the supportive ones and the critical ones. They gave me a lot to think about. I ended up writing a letter to Jack and Emily. Not demanding anything, just explaining my emotions more clearly, without judgment or pressure. I told them I would of course love their daughter no matter what, but that the name would take time for me to adjust to. I said I hoped they would consider how the name might affect others in the family still healing. I also included that Liam shared similar feelings but was afraid to speak up, and I asked them, regardless of the name, to just talk to him and Nora too before finalizing it. A few days later, Jack called me. He apologized for how heated things got, said he didn't realize how raw the grief still was for me and others. He and Emily are still considering the name, but they're now discussing possible alternatives or ways to include Sophie's memory without it being the first name. He said he appreciated that I wrote the letter instead of escalating things. Nothing's finalized yet. They might still go with Sophie, and if they do, I'll find a way to manage. But at least now it feels like they heard me, and that matters more than I thought it would. So, Reddit, now that you know everything, was I the a-hole?